Welcome, everyone. My name is Brian Holcomb. I'm the Director of Visual Arts at the Center for the Arts at Virginia Tech, and we're here to welcome Clare Grill and Margaux Ogden to speak about their show, Things I Have No Words For. First, I wanted to give a quick thank you to the Dean and Rosina Carter Fund and the CY and Carol Davis Fund, which supports our Visiting Artists program. And I also wanted to thank Deborah Brown for supporting both our fall exhibitions. So Clare Grill was born in Chicago, now based in Queens. She received her MFA from Pratt University and attended the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture. Her work has been featured in solo exhibitions at M&B Gallery in Los Angeles, Derek Eller Gallery in New York, and her work has been reviewed in Art Forum, New York Times, the Brooklyn Rail, among others. Margaux Ogden, originally from Boston, now based in Brooklyn, earned her BA from Bard College and MFA in painting from Boston University. Her paintings have been featured in solo shows at Tiff Sigrid's in Athens, Georgia, Berggruen Gallery in San Francisco, and Rental Gallery in East Hampton. She is the recipient of a Pollock Krasner Foundation grant and an Abbey Fellow at the British School of Rome. Though their methods differ, both center the physical act of painting a deep engagement with surface, time, and texture. Clare's canvases merge slowly through the cycles of scraping, wiping, and layering, drawing on a quiet persistence found usually in sources of antique embroidery. Margaux builds rhythmic patterns with highly diluted acrylics, allowing chance and repetition to create luminous fields that echo ancient Roman mosaics in her Bather series. Seen side by side, their works speak to one another in unexpected ways of pattern and improvisation, history and memory, and the deliberate and accidental. Please join me in welcoming Clare and Margaux. So you had the chance to walk through and see the exhibition, seeing your paintings side by side, some works you hadn't seen for a couple of years. And seeing, in your first impressions of this show, was there anything like that surprised you about the conversation between the works? And who?
I mean, I'm familiar with Maggie's work we met in 2011, and I've been following her work, and so have seen it a lot. I feel like something that I noticed is, like, we're both looking really, really closely at the substrate and at the ground and what it's doing to the paint that we're putting on it. And I don't know, I feel like I've always shied away from canvas because it is really uniform. I prefer linen for its imperfection and its kind of dissonance. And Maggie, your paintings just like know what to do on canvas. Like that canvas is anything but uniform when you put paint on it because of the very just like soft, nuanced application and your attention to it. So I really appreciated seeing that what could be just sameness be completely enlivened by your hand and your brain.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, Claire and I met at Skowhegan in 2011, and so we've been following each other's work, but we've actually only been in one large group show, I think, together over the 14 years. And we live in different sides of New York, so we're not constantly like poking into each other's studios or anything. And so it was really the first time seeing these like work side by side and in dialogue, and you just notice so much more about like our similarities. And like I wouldn't, even though we're both doing non-representational work, I don't think of them as, that similar, but it's like, when you do a solo show, those are important but you're very much in your own world, and I feel like seeing the two our paintings together, it like opens things up about like I'm learning something new about your work and my own work, and it's like a whole other, and relating to like the lineage that we're coming from. Like I just, like you said, the substrate that we're both so focused on. Yeah, no, I'm still sort of like digesting, but it's been really amazing seeing the work together.
Yeah, we only gave you an hour and then threw you into a public tour. Let's start with, so Claire, you've described like making your work as a back and forth process with your materials, with the scraping. I mean, a lot of physicality with scraping up, laying down layers, scraping up layers, waiting for the surface to reveal itself. Could you, tell us more about like how that process like unfolds?
Sure.
And people are looking at your painting Crack right now. The title is Crack.
Oh, like specifically that painting?
No, just in general.
Oh,
but
sure.
I was
Yeah,
just
sure.
giving you a little reference.
Okay, cool. Yeah, typically I start a painting with dirty rags that are around me, and I rub the rags on there, and not that there's much color getting on, but just there's little streaks and little scratch marks, or because I have found that I'm a painter who needs to be like responding to something, and so there's like, and it's sort of a seasoning of the canvas so that it's not just plain white. And then often I'm putting a really loose drawing with brushes or oil bars or something, but really loose and really, I know that is going to get covered over and changed. So I'm not attached to it. And often it's like blind. I'm noticing something maybe in a drawing on that wall in my studio, and I'm just like, I'm right-handed. I'm putting it on there very loosely. But I'm always looking at something. Like all of my marks and my forms, they're not invented. I'm looking at something, something that I've made. And then when that kind of underneath layer is dry enough, I will typically, and this is like in the last couple of years, put a layer of color on using a medium that's really thick and kind of it's not washy. It's not stiff, but it's like soft enough that it can move, but hard enough that it's going to stay put, and those brush marks are going to stay. And I use like old crusty Home Depot chip brushes for that, and crusty bristle brushes to paint with. But I don't need precision really, not most of the time. And then once that color looks good, and it's usually it's translucent, so I can see. I think that's an important thing. There's a translucency in like the layers of the work, because I like for the underneath to be still available, so that it's something I can respond to. And I like to paint on a tabletop for that part of it. In part because I don't want to see too much. I don't want to overthink it. And in part because I don't like the drips on the wall. And also the raking light that shines across the surface, it sort of obscures my view and illuminates the texture. So there's these weird, just like tricks. It's kind of like bodily roadblocks I create to make it so that I'm not in my head. I'm just like in my body, and I'm just looking and seeing what wants. It sounds so like cryptic, but it's very much like that. And the back and forth is then like I'm putting it on the wall, and then I'm making kind of like intellectual decisions about composition and color, but I don't like that part as much. I like the part where I'm not thinking so hard. I'm talking too much.
I almost noticed like a humor in your work today too that I hadn't seen before, like in how you play with the nub of the weave, and like I was, it's you really like play that up.
It's
and
like
like
a
there
winky.
there were some parts where I was like, is that actually a nub, or is she just like doing a shadow of a nub that was there or something?
I like to do that.
Yeah.
I like that you noticed that. Yeah.
And there's also humor in the titling. When I say the title's like crack, spill, twist. So I didn't know people, in case if you hear me say that, that's what I'm referring to. It's the style of the painting. And Margaux, in your, so all the paintings in this series from the Bather series, and you also, as Claire was saying, is trying to achieve a certain luminosity, like self-illumination, that you create through these diluted washes that feel both precise and improvise. And so how do you balance that control and chance in your work?
Let's see. So, yeah, they are, because of the way I want the paint applied and the substrate to sort of shine through, not like literally, but just like I want you to see the texture of the canvas. I sort of feel like I have that one shot. It's just sort of one wash, the entire painting. And so a lot of it does have to be planned. Like I don't do sketches before that it's not like a one-to-one thing, but I sort of know. That's why the series, I think, feels so tight, because to find new things within the painting, I need this. I have created like this structure, and I know whatever's happening within the painting I'm currently working on, something incidental might happen and shift a shape or add a new, some step or like a plane shift that I didn't expect that will excite me, and then that sort of helps dictate, compositionally how it's going to evolve in the next painting. So yeah, it is both a controlled, but then it's like you can't always control it, and the paint is so watered down that the things happen that I don't necessarily want. But sometimes it's like really exciting surprises. I'm sure that happens for you, Claire.
Is the next painting that comes informed by the incidental things that happened in the previous painting?
Yeah, often if it yeah, I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. I want to try like pushing that a little bit, or I'll be like, oh, I need to redo that painting over again and have this like idea in my head of how it's going to go, and hopefully the mistake doesn't happen. But usually it's like something that can excite me, or sometimes.
And just to reference like the titling of the Bathers, that's referencing the mosaic tiles of the Roman bathhouses that inspired these paintings.
Yeah, so it's referencing that and just the history of like people who have painted the Bather series, like Cezanne and Matisse, and there's just such a rich history of Bather. So it's sort of a nod to that, but also the initial inspiration for the paintings was at the Baths of Caracalla, which is an ancient bathhouse in Rome. So.
And it's just a coincidence that you need to use water to dilute.
yeah.
Yeah. So, Claire, it's just, you also reference when you're painting, I mean, still, light is very important in both of y'all's works, but like the lights and shadows, like during the days of it as you're painting in your studio, and how that influences like your painting. I mean, is there, speaking like with any of the works, is there a moment where you can really tell like the natural light shifted the direction of that painting, of any of the paintings?
Oh, I don't think I would even notice. I mean, I'll notice like in the moment painting it, if like the sun is really, like in the winter in my current studio, the sun is really harsh in the morning in the winter. And I will get like if there's a teensy bit of relief on the surface, there'll be like a sharp shadow coming off of that little bump. And it's funny and it's weird and it's gonna go away probably in 15 minutes. So sometimes I'll just like paint the shadow and paint the highlight, but then I don't even know what that is later. Like, and my paintings also, they change so much and sometimes get layered over with new color. So that bit of shadow might only be visible in like a little opening from the next layer. Like, it's there underneath, but you might not even see it, or maybe, yeah. So I'm really not trying to like stop time. I'm trying to use the incidental things that I notice around me to like let it all into the painting, because I think it's like very kind of democratic in a way. Like it could be a beautiful shape that I painted in some other drawing, or it could be like a random speck that landed on the painting that like looks good there, and I'm gonna emphasize it or something.
And that's where also you're using improvisation, but also, I mean, you both of you are trying in a way with this meditative process, or like forgetting yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could do that like on demand, but it is not really possible for me. But I
Certain times of day,
reach
I
for
feel
that.
like, yeah. Definitely.
So Maggie, I kind of wanted to talk about your use of color, and especially it's like when lighting the show, it was definitely a different approach with each of your work. Your work was reflecting more, and Claire, your work was like absorbing more of the light. And in one of the paintings, the Bathers paintings, that those like high yellows are really striking. And you've spoken like of your use of color as a type of resistance in the past. And can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think part of it is, I would say just like my general love of color. And like we've talked about this earlier, but like things I'll see in the street, or an outfit someone's wearing, or I see in a magazine, or, you happen to, I keep like rags in my studio, and sometimes I'll see two dabs that just sort of accidentally, were on the same rag, and I'll be like, oh, that's a great combo. I need to like make some paintings with that combo. But also, yeah, it's sort of a feminist choice, and like a pushback against, the like serious male abstraction, because I feel like people don't take colorful things as seriously, and they can write them off, or it's seen as fun or flippant or humorous or feminine, or just unserious. And so it's a way to, like, I guess in a way to reclaim color. But yeah, it's not exclusively about that, but I think that's a big part of it for sure.
Is it also about a certain type of disruption to the viewer of what they would expect?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, or even to disruption to myself in the studio. It's like doing that yellow painting. I was like, that was hard on my eyes. It was like not an easy painting to make, but I was kind of like, how can I keep pushing this and pushing the yellows and making this more and more uncomfortable to look at, and so, or you'll be like, oh, this needs like it's all sort of just things I play with, games I play with myself in the studio about sort of color combinations and how to maybe. I also let the painting like kind of tell me what it needs sometimes too. It's like I'll have favorite color combinations or things that really vibrate to me when they're placed next to each other, but then you'll go back to a favorite combo and it falls flat. That's why I try not to like intellectualize the color too much or plan it in advance, because it's that always, when I do it does fall flat. So I might go in with like, one color that I know I need in the next painting, and then I sort of let this sort of, without sounding cheesy, but let the painting kind of tell me what else needs to be in there.
And both of you expanded in your scale too with the paintings. I mean, I just remember early on, or just 10 years ago, I remember the more smaller paintings, and this shift of scale made the act of painting more physical as a way, but just as both of you were saying, is that you're trying to lose yourself. Does that scale kind of assist in that, to where you can't see the whole painting at a time, or you're basically physically immersed because it's beyond your zone?
I can speak to that for sure. I mean, in a way, it's like economical. I mean, 15 years ago, I was painting in my bedroom at home, and I didn't have a lot of room, and I was making, paintings that were a little larger than a book, and I painted them like in my lap, like holding them, or at a tabletop, but really close to them, and then I had a show at a gallery in LA that was big, and the gallerist was like, will you make me a large painting? And I was like, I will try, but I don't paint big, I paint small. And I got a big canvas, and it was seamless. It was like such a seamless transition, and I understood then, like, oh, I'm this close to a big canvas, and I'm trying to do the same thing with the little paintings. Like, I'm trying to not worry about what it's gonna be. Like, I just want to get lost in pushing the paint into the linen, really. So that I love a large painting because it's like less. I mean, obviously it's big and it hurts to move it around and stuff, but I just feel like I'm not as responsible. Like the painting has participates so much more.
Is that also why you tend to work like on a table flat, and because you're used to having like the painting in your lap?
Well, and originally, like only had a little bit of wall space, so I had to put paintings on a table, and I don't like drips. It's just a quirk. Like, I don't like them, so I would put it flat, and that also was like, oh, this works. I prefer this.
Yeah. And when you go in to see the show, you can tell that Margaux embraces drips by just looking at the sides of the canvas, and then Claire's are just pristine.
But your drips are
linen.
Over the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Over
you mean
the
like
edge.
a down
Yeah.
drip.
Over the
Yeah,
edge, yeah. Over the edge. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at it because none of the canvases are framed or anything, so it really is that partly intentional because it shows the substrate. I mean, it shows the support, or is it?
I like the history there. I think
Yeah.
it's just cool.
Yeah, same. It's like if someone wants to frame it, they can. But I like seeing that this is the edge. It's on canvas. You can see the colors I work with. It's all, I like the history there too.
A little document.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I wanted to speak a little bit more too. So Claire, you said your color choices are just more intuitive, or is there a certain reason why you would pick a certain color? I mean, is it just like a challenge of saying, I'm going in the studio and I'm going to use pink today?
It's not that predetermined usually, but I feel like my color, I almost like back into my color. Like in that a lot of times what's around me in the studio is how I get motivated to make to choose a color. Like if, for example, if there's a lot of brightly colored paintings in the studio and it's looking like an Easter egg in there, my impulse is to make a brown painting or dark paint or gray painting or navy, something other. And same, vice versa. If it's real dusty looking in there color-wise, I'm like, I need to make a hot pink painting or like some kind of... I like a counterpoint because I think in the same way that like red next to green, red makes green look better or look greener. It almost like shines a light. The opposite shines a light on its opposite. I think the same about color. Like, I think that there needs to be, or I prefer if there's like a diverse group of colors in there that kind of all exist in their own world, but like make each other sing. Like harmony and dissonance or something like that.
And also, it helps you stay interested.
Yeah, because like I've tried to make two of the same palette like simultaneously, and one is necessarily better than the other, and then I cannot accept the the one that's not as good.
Mhm.
So that one will get changed entire. It'll get covered over with new color, and it just won't have arrived yet. You know, so.
So I wanted to touch on the title of the show that Margaux, you suggested, the things I have no words for, which is a quote from Georgia O'Keeffe. And could you talk about her as an influence? Because when I was looking at the Bathers, the yellow painting that we were just talking about, like this was the one that made me think of the southwestern landscape and the colors.
Oh, yeah, and I think the sort of the botanical, I don't like go after that, but I feel like they sort of nod to the botanical too, which in a way sort of relates to her practice. But yeah, she had said, talked about shapes and color as things that she couldn't really describe with words, or things I had no words for. And I just thought that was kind of a perfect way to describe sort of what we're doing, because obviously we're painting for a reason, and it's not always easy to talk about. And but yeah, so it just felt like a poetic and an appropriate title for this show, and I feel like both of our work is in an interesting dialogue with O'Keeffe. I'm trying to think of specific, but
Yeah, well, it's also too I mean, even though her paintings, you could look at certain ones and say they're representational or they're referencing something that's physical in the world. It's kind of a combination between abstraction, landscape painting, and also figurative, like painting, or and looking at the patterns and the mirroring and reflective. I mean, just the whole mirroring. You know, see a horizon, see a sunset or a sunrise, but also I see figurative, like bodily, you know, elements too in the works, and that's something that too that pattern just does. It's like we fill in the blanks,
right.
and stuff. So also just speaking to the literal like things, you know, Claire, with you pulling from, you know, antique embroidery, and Margaux, you with this current series are really getting influenced by the patterns and tiles of the Roman mosaics. You know, how do these like historical artifacts like play into the work? Like how was that a jump start, you know, for you? And Claire, you want to start?
Sure. And I kind of spoke to this in the walkthrough, but I came upon embroidery samplers shortly after Skowhegan, actually. Like, my husband was writing his dissertation. He studied early American literature, and he came across embroidery samplers in his research and was like, oh, these are right up your alley. You should look at these. And I really loved them. They are embroidered pieces of linen that little girls made as part of their schooling if they were wealthy enough to be educated, and used to get domestic work, and then also handed down as like family heirlooms and evidence of a daughter's virtue and talent. And I felt very drawn to them because I think they're complicated. They're really beautiful and sweet and made by little hands, but they're also very often very heavy, and there's this acute awareness of death and the afterlife and obedience to God and trying to be good. And if you spend the time to read them, and also they're embroidered, and they're insanely busy and not busy, but detailed and laborious. And so because of that, they're touched all over. They're very handled, and I just find that I love old handmade things. I just find them full of richness and emotion, and I like them for their mood. It's like real kind of simple like that. And so I make works on paper that are kind of like homages or something. They're not transcriptions. I'm not keeping the information. I do title each drawing the first name of the girl who made the source sampler, but I'm not like cataloging the year it was made. I can usually go back and find which sampler inspired which drawing, but those drawings that I've made, and I've made a lot. I mean, over 100 of those. I've learned they're kind of like I mean, I do show them too. They're discrete works, but they're like a database of my marks and colors, and I pull from them freely and loosely to make paintings. Yeah.
For you.
And I feel like, yeah, for me, I guess just the way I work, or at least in the last like 15 years, I'll like find something that interests me, like visually, or like probably when you were introduced to my work, it was there were a lot of text in it, and so just sort of like text was my way to like, it was stuff that I heard, stuff that I wrote down. It felt very diaristic, and for a while, I just sort of structured my paintings around that, and then all of a sudden one day, you know, you go into the studio and you're like, this isn't working for me anymore. People are focused too much on the text, and so I started redacting text or looking for like gestures in that referenced or alluded to text but without being text, and that led me to this a mark on a 18th century like Japanese woodblock print. And that was like a wrestler series, and it was like the bottom of a wrestler's robe, and I just sort of found that, like, fell in love with this gesture, and I was like, I'm going to build as many paintings as I can like around this gesture from this woodblock. And it's sort of similar to then I was in Rome doing this residency, had like a spiritual moment at the Baths of Caracalla. Started drawing, you know, again, we touched on this in the walkthrough, but started drawing from these mosaics, bastardized it over time, so it became my own, kind of similar to with the sampler drawings. It like, initially that shape is someone else's, and then over time, it just, you draw it enough, right, it becomes your own to then like pull, and that's sort of how I felt with the mosaic piece. And yeah, so I've just been sort of hovering over that idea for the last, I had no idea that it would like sort of be the genesis for or dictate like the next 5 years of painting, but it has, and I'm sure, I feel like I'm still like really excited about what I can do within that structure, but I'm sure, you know,
It's like what's the metaphor about like, it takes an acorn to make an oak tree or something. Like, I love that. It's better than that, whatever it is. But I love the idea that just a little teeny
just one little thing can take
seed can grow something massive. Like, it's cool.
Yeah, because you touched on one of the things I was showing your Time Kill Time painting from 2016, which references like the text that used to be in your work, and seeing those mosaics and everything. Yes, this is part of when I was first introduced to your work, and your work was in 2014. So it was completely different than what we're seeing right now. And it's always curious to hear about that. Sorry, interesting, because I'm curious to hear about that that moment or that experience that kind of shifted things, because it's not predictable and everything. And then just to go back to you, Claire, it's like this was like what I saw. I'm showing like grain from 2015. So both of you are like all over abstractions, like filling. Both of them are still more mosaics. I mean, you still have that same color sensitivity, but there's a lot more. I mean, a lot less. I would say the painting is more closed in, and you have more openness, more floating, floating. Could you, you know, like thinking about that painting, like what remains central to that process and what has shifted to that openness?
Good question. I mean, similar, lately, I'm still usually, but no, it depends on the painting. It just really depends on the painting. But I was gonna say I'm still layering over, and I feel like I made a lot of work that was very all like lots of little marks, all little shapes all over the canvas, and it was kind of like tiresome, or I got bored with it. I wanted to find some sort of gravity, some kind of like force that was gonna like take me out of this cave. I felt like I was in a cave with no flashlight and no eye, and I was like trying to get out of it. And so it was a really kind of deliberate choice to try and let larger shapes in. I don't know if it happened like overnight, but I'm similarly like putting layers of transparent paint on, but I think the difference is now that I'm really consciously looking at the first step and seeing if the linen is giving me enough information. Like maybe I didn't need 5 paintings underneath and all the little colors and shapes and textures, that all of that. It was like too much information, TMI. And I needed, and like it has felt better to like maybe let the information of the linen and the loose drawing that I've put on top of the linen, maybe just those things are gonna give me enough. And it's about like slowing down and looking a lot more instead of doing as much, and then in like looking and listening, and yeah.
I think the best thing too is it's like a long, painting is long and life is long, hopefully. And the best thing we can do, just keep ourselves like interested in the studio. And so I feel like that's probably, why over the last 10 years, it's like you can't just go in and make the same thing over and over again, or you have to just sort of follow your nose or push the work, test something out. Like, and it's like, who cares? Yeah, maybe people won't be interested in that next step. But as long as I've always been like, as long as I'm care about what I'm doing or excited about what I'm doing in the studio, then then I've like done my job, essentially.
And in the painting, I was speaking of time kill time. You can see traces of the mirroring, which is now front and center.
Yeah.
And did that also? I mean, I know it doesn't happen overnight, but it's obviously it seems to have more visual prominence now in the Bather series.
Yeah, I think I was always interested in like, oh, what happens if I make this mark over here and then try to repeat myself over here? Like, can I do it perfectly? Or then I won't be able to. So like, how interesting is that to look at these 2 marks that you made with the same size brush and the same gesture in the same amount of time? And so yeah, I was always interested in kind of like bifurcating a surface and playing with that bifurcation. And yeah, it's funny because I feel like these paintings, people used to always talk about like mosaics with them, just because I would leave the raw canvas. I was painting on raw canvas at the time, and a lot of the line work was just from the canvas. So I was always interested in however way it was going to present itself, but the substrate really being a part of the painting in whatever way that would manifest. And at this point, it was like the line work was coming from just the raw canvas poking through.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, now it's like thinking back to what you're working, where your work is now with the Bather series, and you with these more open canvases. Do you see another shift coming? Is there something else that's like kind of sparking your interest for what's next?
Well, something that I am noticing, just seeing that old painting of Maggie's and you were talking about text.
Mm-hmm.
And Maggie, you said something about like the word is almost a word, or it was like not
like referencing a word or alluding to like language, maybe.
Yeah. I had forgotten that you were in that zone 15 years ago or
Yeah.
10 years ago. And I feel like I'm leaning more into that zone lately.
Yeah.
And like my sampler drawings often have bits of what winks at writing, but it falls, it maybe resembles an A, but it doesn't complete itself as the letter A or something. Like so it ends up looking like a little weird glyph or something. And I love that place of language almost but not quite completing a sentence or something. And it's because I really do believe that like art is not an explanation machine. It's like a proposition or an invitation. It's not dogmatic, and I think abstract painting exists in that space. But I'm leaning more into
was
using
noticing that,
text.
yeah.
And we're like my daughter 3 years ago, she and her friends made up this thing they called witch language, where they would take words and take out the vowels and then arrange the consonants any which way. And so there's this, she gave me the piece of paper that she did it on, and it's like code. It's like this
Like a beautiful
weird,
abstraction,
cool,
yeah.
abstract. They're little drawings, and I love incorporating those into the paintings.
Steal
just like
those, yeah.
I'm stealing them. Yeah, I
Steal
titled
the
my
witch
last
language.
show "Witch Language."
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so good.
and also shorthand writing, which my dad's grandmother worked her way up as a secretary at a mattress company in Chicago, teaching herself shorthand, which is similarly like, it does carry meaning, but most people cannot access it easily. Like it's a secret code, and it almost like subversive. Like I think of Fanny's witch language. I don't know. I like and it's also a very feminine form of. Females were secretaries in the 40s and traditionally. So I like thinking of that kind of writing, similar to the witch language, similar to the embroideries, as like maybe it's a superpower. Maybe it's like maybe you can turn it around and not look at it as oppressive, but maybe it's also like this crazy superpower. So I think that I'm leaning into incorporating that kind of line that references writing but isn't aiming to like actually communicate one thing.
Oh, I noticed that with this elephant gray painting had some that I was like, oh, these feel really like they're alluding to letters, and sort of a serendipitous pairing with the show upstairs of Dana
and Josephine's, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I want them to
Full
look
circle.
specific but not like obvious. Not like
Didactic,
yes.
Very obvious, yeah.
Yeah.
And for you, Margaux, do you see yourself continuing this Bather series for a while? Or are you already thinking about what's next? What that next series is?
I think right now I feel like I feel like I have some more paintings within this series in me that I'm still excited about pursuing, but I know the day is coming, and I'll it's hard. I can't really predict it. It just sort of one day I go in and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just ready for and so then that comes like the sad, frustrating months in the studio where, but it's also exciting too. You have to know that like on the other side of that will be something hopefully rewarding. But all right, do you go through that when like growing pains essentially?
Yeah, probably, but yeah.
But anyway, I feel for now I'm still excited about it. So good.
Yeah, life is just busy. I think I'm not noticing the pains.
Okay,
I'm
well,
just like, go,
sometimes
go.
it's good to just
Yeah.
plowing forward.
Well, I mean, the works look fabulous, and I would love to see more and more years of Bathers and stuff in the patterns.
Thank you.
So, and to end on a lighter note, you both have done your very first mural. Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, how much? So, how does it affect you, kind of seeing the scaling up of your work even more now? I mean, no tabletop was involved, but
No.
just
No, it's been amazing to see it at this scale. I mean, this is, like we said, our first mural, and it's just really kind of magical. And also, it's just a new way of looking at the work and how it relates to the body. And it's no longer in a gallery. It will be like, how does this painting, relate to the body or the interior architecture? It's kind of like limited what it will interact with inside a white cube, but then outside, you're like, oh, how does this respond to these like parking stripes on the in the parking lot, and the sky and the trees and cars and movement, and it opens up like so many other ways to like think about the work and interact with it and have it engage with the world, and so that's been super exciting.
Yeah.
to think
Yeah,
about.
we're still trying to figure out how to do a survey at the McDonald's drive-through, as everybody's waiting to watch it, like a old drive-in movie.
I've
And
been
so-
like bragging to people that it's across from a McDonald's drive-through. Good visibility.
Yeah, and for Claire, is it?
Same. I like how it interacts with the architecture. Like there's a black circular thing in the lower corner of that pink one, and I'm like,
It's our water drain for you.
oh, I want to paint a black circle on that painting. That looks good, you know. Like it just gives you ideas that wouldn't be available to you. Like it's really hard to just invent stuff like that for me. I have to see it happening, and
Yeah, seeing it with the clouds above it too.
Yeah.
That little picture. And it's like
Yeah, little moody cloud.
the moody
Yeah,
cloud.
yeah.
and it looks so good. Like the color and the texture is all there. I'm so impressed. It looks
Yeah.
great.
Thank you. So, well, thank you both for sharing your work with us and also this conversation. We have, like 5-10 minutes for any audience questions, if anybody has something that I missed for Claire or Margaux. AJ?
I read somewhere in an interview that you, Claire, do like knit, and it was just something I was curious about. I know that you've talked about how the embroidery is kind of like a reference, but not fully in your work. But beyond like, I don't know, in personal practice, do you ever find that like the work that you're doing in your studio ever influences things that you're making for yourself, or I don't know, does it ever
Things that I'm
bleed
knitting?
into your knitting work?
Probably like my color. Probably my color sensibility is like a crossover, and I need to like get a knitting project. I haven't really been knitting in the last couple of years, just with small children. But I love to knit. It's very like satisfying, but it's way faster than embroidery. It doesn't carry the same complex weight that embroidery does. Yeah, I don't know. I think just like I'm attracted to textile in general and color and. Do you knit too?
No, but I've been like, it was just something I was thinking about in terms of like if you were to try and like, not necessarily translate it, but like think about how it would look in texture. Like, because I've been sewing more recently, and I have been trying to entertain like, how would I put together fabric if I wanted to make something like look a certain way, and even just on like a 2D, like if you were to go up on a wall, it's just.
Mm-hmm.
Like tapestries or
Uh-huh.
things
Oh, that would be so cool. Yeah. Or like, yeah. Someday.
See, Amanda?
So I have brought my class here, and they are doing a very color-oriented painting class. And so, yeah, thanks Brian for all of these good color-oriented questions. But I have more. And I guess twofold. Because you've talked about a little bit about your approach to color, and we can see like what from our side, like what the approach of color is that so from like where you're starting to either mix color or apply color, like are both of you color mixers, or are you like color like finders and takers? Like, are you using like the the named color from the tube? Are you mixing on a palette? And then also, what were some ways that you like came to using color, being like so into color in the way that you are?
I can start. I used to mix, when I painted in oil paint like 15 years ago, I would mix my own, and I really did get a lot of pleasure out of that, because that's like a, oh no, sorry, but like mixing, did you mean grind your own pigments, or
No.
just like mix it, yeah, like taking a tube and a tube, and yeah. And that was a cool challenge, like, because you have, like we were talking about, you have an idea of a color in your head and just figuring out if you can get it just right. But now I paint in acrylic, and I use straight out of the tube. And that's like another challenge, because it's sort of, I see it as like a limitation, and sometimes I feel like for me, limitations can be really good. And so trying to work within the limitation of these colors that someone else has like created, and so that's, I think, answered the first part of your question.
And I pretty much am always mixing stuff up, and I'm not organized about it. I'm often, I was saying in the walkthrough, like, to make space on the palette or to not throw away paint, I'll like take piles of paint and just put them all together and make a new weird brown or gray or something, or plum. And then sometimes I'll mix color in relation to that color. It's like a slow finding, really. There's a couple tube colors I really like cold black, that Williamsburg color, that's a good color. Lemon Pearl from Robert Doak. When you were talking about color combos, I wanted to jump in, and I'll say it now. My favorite combo, which is so surprising, is like a lemony yellow, but like a pale lemon, like almost like a whitey lemon, with unbleached titanium.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
It's crazy. It looks like it makes titanium look purple. Like, it's just so tricky. It's so confusing. I love that. So you should make that painting.
Okay, I will try.
You don't like to mix your own blacks? Instead.
I mean, I think I had very
Well, you have
little
that
like
gray.
foundational painting. I heard that recently, that you make your own black with ultramarine, burnt umber, and alizarin. Is that right?
I think it's alizarin, yeah.
Like, I didn't know. I've not done that.
I'm really good at making gray.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, making mud.
Yes, prettiest mud you ever seen, right? Yeah. We have time for one more question, if there is. Because it will be the best question.
No pressure.
All right. Well, I wanted to thank you both for joining us again, and this show is up until November 22nd, and we will have this talk posted in a couple of weeks. And also, just to remind you, our next artist talk will be October 9th, Thursday at 3 p.m. with Brian Detmer, who did our Grand Lobby commission. All right. Well, thank you all for coming, and thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having
guys.
us.
Yeah.